Hello everyone, and today we're going to be talking about one of the most divisive horror movies of 2024, In a Violent Nature. In a Violent Nature is a Shudder original film that follows the resurrection and rampage of Johnny, an undead monster who slaughters everyone in his path as he attempts to retrieve a stolen locket from his resting place. It sounds like a pretty generic slasher story, and it is, but the execution is why this film is so heavily talked about. Almost the entire film is spent from the perspective of the killer. The majority of the film is third-person, video game-like shots of Johnny as he stalks and brutalises a group of teenagers camping in a lakeside forest. Some people love this unique take on a familiar story. There's a lot of simplistic creativity on show, and it makes for a different slasher experience. But other people really hate it, as it lacks any tension because you always know when and where these characters are going to be killed. Where do I stand? I either fall somewhere in the middle or completely outside of the box, because I've found In a Violent Nature to be absolutely hilarious. This film is a hysterical satire of slasher films, and that's what I'm going to look at today. How In a Violent Nature deconstructs the slasher subgenre in such a humorous way. I'll be breaking my video into 4 different parts, so let's get into it. In a Violent Nature, for as slow and monotonous as it is, begs a question to the audience that I haven't seen another slasher film ask before. What is Jason Voorhees, or any other slasher villain like Michael, Ben Willis, etc., doing when he is not murdering teenagers? It's a question that a lot of people have when watching slasher films. There are large chunks of the Friday films and Halloween films where Michael and Jason just aren't present. What exactly are they doing? Well, In a Violent Nature answers that question. They are very slowly wandering around. The vast majority of this film, we follow Johnny just walking around a forest. He's in no hurry to get anywhere, he moves at a snail's pace, he just wanders around hoping to find someone to slaughter. While this film is painstakingly dull for what I would predict is about 60% of the runtime, it leaves you as the audience member going, wait, is this really what Jason does off screen? Or think of the original Friday the 13th, where Pamela Voorhees was the killer. There is a scene near the end of the film that goes on for about 2 minutes, where Alice is just making herself a cup of coffee. She's one of, if not the last girl standing at this point in the film, as all of her friends have just been slaughtered by this horrific killer, yet she has time to make herself a coffee? Just taking her time, minding her own business, in no hurry, all relaxed. Where is Pamela Voorhees at this point? And why isn't she trying to kill Alice? In a Violent Nature says that she's probably just gone for a stroll. While In a Violent Nature takes a very unique storytelling approach, most of the pieces are from old jigsaw puzzles. The film is set in a big, isolated lakeside forest, which is straight out of almost any Friday the 13th film. The mask that Johnny wears resembles a human face, although absolutely no emotion is displayed. Just like Jason's mask, Michael's mask, and even something like the miner from My Bloody Valentine. The cast of characters are all a bunch of stupid, horny teenagers, like in almost every other slasher in existence. And the weapons that Johnny uses, like a knife and a dragging hook, have been used in previous films such as Halloween and Black Christmas. All this is to say that just about everything in this film can be used as a substitute for any slasher film. So when it comes to satirizing the slasher genre, In a Violent Nature mocks almost every film in the genre. Sure, some of the best slasher films, such as Thanksgiving and Scream, do provide the audience with information of where the killer is at all times, but most others don't provide you with that knowledge, and you're left wondering, where the fuck is Jason? Or where the fuck is Michael? Or where the fuck is the Valentine killer? Etc, etc. The familiarity of In a Violent Nature allows itself to not just be a parody of a film or maybe a group of films, but an entire subgenre. The role of Johnny is played by Canadian actor Rye Barrett, and he does a terrific job. He doesn't have any dialogue, and his face is all mangled so he doesn't use facial expressions, so his performance is all body language. The way he walks, the way he sits, the way he stabs and slashes, it's all very deliberate. With the backstory that we get, we learn that Johnny was developmentally delayed as a human, and that carries over into his mannerisms as an undead being. Everything he does is slow. Really, really slow. He walks slowly, he sits down slowly, he looks over his weapons and his victims slowly, and he kills slowly. To further highlight how slow Johnny is, the film is paced extremely slowly as well, with a kill about every 20 minutes, and the time in between is filled by watching Johnny walk around. While watching this film, I was so bored by it, and a lot of that is due to the fact that Johnny is not intimidating at all. He is so slow and hulking that you never feel like he's ever actually threatening. And yet, I don't say that as a negative. As I mentioned earlier, this film is so familiar, and you can basically put any slasher into the role of Johnny. So in turn, the slowness and borderline incompetence of Johnny as a slasher turns other slashers like Jason and Michael into dawdling, meandering, unintimidating dumb fucks. The monsters that terrorized you, the audience, as children, are nothing more than overgrown slugs with arms and legs. As we all know, characters in slasher films aren't often very smart. There's always a strong and resourceful final girl, but the rest of the characters are usually stupid, and it's their stupidity that gets themselves killed. It's not a knock on the films at all though, because let's be real, we come to see slashers to see people get slaughtered. Inner Violent Nature pokes fun at this trope, not by subverting it, but by doubling down on it. Whenever we see Johnny amble his way up to these characters, they are given more than enough time to leave, to just walk away honestly. But no, they stand there and scream and scream and scream before being butchered. Speaking of the kills, they are insanely good in this film, particularly the yoga death, and it reminded me that so many iconic kills wouldn't have happened without stupid character choices. So, within reason, bring on the dumb slasher characters. Anyway, following on from my previous points, this film is so similar to so many other slasher films, and the characters' lack of intelligence is no exception. This film makes you think back to all of the other classic slasher films, and how silly some of those characters were. Why did Sarah Michelle Gellar just stop running away from Ben Willis in I Know What You Did Last Summer? Why does Laurie let her guard down when she thinks Michael is dead, even though all she did was stab him in the eye with a coat hanger? And because all of the characters in this film have no personality, again, you can basically substitute any slasher character in their place, and their fate would still be the same. Characters have always been stupid, and now after spending 90 painstakingly dull minutes with Johnny, we've realised that the killer has actually been pretty stupid too. So the fact that most of these characters bite it, even while Johnny literally approaches them at a snail's pace, it's pretty hilarious. You have one big bad bumbling idiot following around a group of smaller bumbling idiots. It becomes sort of a screwball comedy in its own way. There's no real threat, there's no real danger, it's just one big grumpy brain-dead monster walking around attacking a bunch of complete twits. Overall, Inner Violent Nature is a very clever film that finds very creative ways to poke fun at the slasher genre. It addresses some pretty common thoughts that most of us watching slasher films have, and its resemblance to a wide variety of other films allow it to not only satirise a group of slashers, but the entire genre. It isn't a laugh out loud film, but its slow determination to tear down the whole genre is absolutely hilarious to me. Thank you all so much for listening to my video essay of Inner Violent Nature. This has been quite a divisive film, so please let me know what you thought of this film, and let me know if this video changed your thoughts on the film at all. I'll see you all later. Bye.